Hello and welcome to another edition of Another Book Review. Today I'll be reading the nonfiction work Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. I'll go real briefly into the author's background and talk about what the book is. I'll give you some points of it that I liked, some points that I didn't particularly care for, and we'll finish off with what I will be reading for next time. Yuval Noah Harari is a academic from Israel. He wrote this book, from what I gather, when he was relatively young. The book is basically very well cited in terms of many different sources, and it is a account of the evolution of Homo sapiens from the time that they coexisted with other species, including I don't know if they're considered species or other subset of mammals on the same evolutionary line as humans, such as Neanderthals, all the way to the near future, where he touches on technologies that are just now becoming into the forefront in terms of non-biological life, cyborg technology, and other biological modifications. So it's actually a fairly wide-ranging work. So that's what it is. It's in some ways it's very interesting because I think it's a good summation of history and also of the differences between pre-agricultural societies all the way up to today and the reasons for them evolving. That to me was kind of the most interesting part of the book, was where he touches on the coexistence of Homo sapiens with Neanderthals and other, I'm going to call them species for the purposes of this video. I don't know if that's correct or if they're technically subspecies. But I thought that was kind of the most interesting part, going over what we kind of know about Neanderthals and what we know about early Homo sapiens. He also kind of touches on, one of the other things I liked is he kind of touches on areas where there's not a scientific consensus. He's very clear about that. There's one or two parts I'll get into when I get into things I didn't like, where I don't think he was as clear. But the one part where I did appreciate was when he was talking about how humankind, or Homo sapiens, evolved to become the dominant species. He explains that one of the reasons was due to the large size of human brains, Homo sapien brains, compared to other species or subspecies. And his theory is that the role of language, kind of abstract thought and narrative, led to the increase in the brain size, which led to easier cooperation among Homo sapiens as compared to Neanderthals. And I thought that was interesting. That's just a theory, and he kind of lays that out as just a theory, and kind of the importance of that, and as well as the importance of kind of similar things, the formation of math and writing later on, and those chapters I felt were really interesting. When we got to the, I thought all that was interesting, probably up to the Industrial Revolution. Kind of some more of the things that I didn't care for as much. The second half of the book, from kind of the Industrial Revolution onward, I found it kind of dragged. And it may be just because I've read other sources on that period, it just wasn't as interesting to me. I thought that particularly there's a part on money and kind of a part on the differences in gender and how that has changed over time, where I felt that he kind of belabored some points that I think he could have moved past. If I'm going to take this as a book that's in essence a textbook, and it more or less it is a textbook in the sense that there's basically paragraphs that are written, and within those paragraphs there's a citation, and if you go to that citation, there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 books that kind of give you a deeper understanding of whatever that topic is, which is fine. I didn't really dislike that. I just felt that if you are going to have a textbook, for some points, it felt like there were some points that were belabored, and we kind of stayed on those for a while instead of kind of moving forward with it. But I think the book does a really good job. If you wanted to give someone a book that's basically a brief history of mankind, you could do a lot worse than this. I don't know if anybody, that being said, I don't know if anybody's going to read this from end to end in one sitting. I think it does work better if you read a chapter, step away from it, read a chapter, step away from it. Because I did feel it really dragged in the second half, and it just wasn't as interesting as the first half. I will say the one part of it that I wish he had given a little bit more humility is maybe not the right word, but it felt like he stated this as fact, and I've seen it kind of disputed in other places, was the idea that Europeans were able to technologically advance faster than other societies due to their ability to question the limits of the outer world due to philosophical and religious reasons. And so the idea that they would explore beyond their borders, so to speak, in a much more frequent fashion than other societies. I wish he had kind of, that is my taking of what he wrote. I don't know how scientifically accurate that is, if that has in fact been tested. But it seems like he put that down as an assertion of truth, and I think that may be questioned. So overall, I do recommend the book because I think the information in it is relevant and interesting. I do think that this is not a book that I would personally read straight through again. I would probably point someone to different chapters. In some ways, it's kind of a cool bathroom book because you go in and you wanted to kind of read about the history of money and why it exists, and you can kind of go to that chapter and find that out. And like I said before, I thought the part about pre-agricultural Homo sapiens was, I think, a little bit more interesting than the rest of it. But it is a good book if you want kind of a broader view, I guess, of kind of the evolution of Homo sapiens. This is a pretty good book for that. I will say, if you have read this before or are looking for similar books, he does have a lot of citations in the back of the book, so you can just follow those. But some of the books that I've read that I thought would be good paired with this, Civilized to Death, which I've reviewed in the channel before, I'll put a link to it. Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond. He does cite Jared Diamond later in the book, but that one specifically is something I always recommend to people because I think that is actually a better exploration of the question of why European societies maybe advanced at a faster technological degree than other ones. And it gives kind of a more multifaceted reason for that. And I think that is a little bit more backed up by sources and citing. And there's another book in the author I don't have in front of me, so I apologize, but there's a book called War, What Is It Good For?, which kind of explains how the number of violent deaths have, counter to kind of common belief in humans, have actually gone down over the millennia. That's actually a really interesting book, and I will find the author of that and post that in the comments below because I do recommend people to check that out. But that is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. Next time I'm going to do a little bit something different. I'm going to be reviewing a comic for the first time for the channel, and that comic is DC, The New Frontier by Darwin Cook. And until next time, if you've read Sapiens and have comments about it, please leave them below. Feel free to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter if you haven't done so already. Till next time, bye.